Okay, Mom, explain to me your profession.
My profession at this time is a part-time administrator and a part-time graduation coach, and working with 504s, SSTs, all the RTI program, hospital homebound students at West Forsyth High School.
Um, okay. What educational background is needed for your profession?
Well, you have to have a college degree, minimum of a Bachelor of Science. It can be in education, it can be in another field. I also have a master's in secondary education, and I have a degree in educational leadership.
Okay. Uh, do you speak Spanish in your job?
I don't personally speak Spanish, but people in my job do speak Spanish, and it would be a useful skill.
When would they speak Spanish?
Because of our student demographics and our population, at times we need to speak with parents of Hispanic students, and some of those parents are first-generation immigrants and do not speak English. Therefore, having the ability to speak Spanish is very advantageous.
Okay. Would the use of Spanish in your profession benefit you or your business? How? I know you already kind of answered.
Well, it makes the communication with parents that are only fluent in Spanish easier. A lot of times the student becomes the interpreter for the parent. We do have several people on staff that are fluent in Spanish and often utilize those skills when a parent comes into the building or when we're making a phone call home. If it's a disciplinary action or if it's an educational concern, it becomes imperative that the parent understand what you're talking about. Therefore, speaking in their native language is important.
Okay. Do you distribute information about your profession in Spanish, like newsletters and stuff?
We do, not so much newsletters, but in my case, like parent rights letters that tell parents what the steps are if they have an issue with the school or school system. It enables them to read it in their own language, and especially if we're asking for a signature or verification that they understand what's going on, it's nice to have it in, bilingual.
Okay. If you spoke Spanish, uh, does your profession exist in Spanish-speaking countries?
It does. I don't know if the exact job title of graduation coach exists. I'm certain there are principals or administrators of some sort in schools, so and of course teachers.
Okay. Would that be something you would consider, like if going to a different country?
And doing this job in a different country?
Yeah.
Sure, I think it would be interesting. The education system is very different in other countries. I'm not as versed in what the administrative side of those school districts are, or even the way school districts are broken up over there. So yes, it would be very interesting to see and make the comparison.
Okay. If your profession allowed a
Stipend.
if your profession allowed a stipend for bilingual employees, would you be willing to learn Spanish and use it in your profession? How much of a stipend would it have to be in order to pique your interest?
Well, um, stipend aside, I think it's important. For me, it's more of a time issue. I think if I had started my career in the workforce in education, I probably would have learned a second language. The part of the country I grew up in, there were actually a lot of people that came from different places outside of DC. There's a lot of international people from government, people in business. I don't know at this point that being paid would be the impetus to get me to learn to speak Spanish. I think it's really just more of a time issue, but I think it would be valuable. If they were going to pay a stipend, I would think just paying for the course itself would be sufficient.
All right. A couple of non-work related questions. Have you ever traveled outside of the United States?
I have.
Where?
France and Italy, Canada.
Okay. Did you have any encounters in which it would have been beneficial to speak another language?
Certainly when you're in another country, it is beneficial if you can, read or speak the native dialect or, native tongue. because most of the world can speak English and most of the signage and things are in, in English and another language, you can typically manage if you're only fluent in English. But going through the airport, reading signs, reading restaurant menus, yes, absolutely, it would be nice to have a second language.
Okay, in your opinion, what holds people back from learning another language? At what point do you feel that learning a new language is a priority?
Well, really, even as old as I am, colleges and universities required 2 to 4 years of a foreign language for admission. So anybody that's going to be college educated is going to be exposed, whether it's in high school or in high school and college, to a foreign language. Business has become very international. Everything has become international. And I think the more languages you're exposed to, the more customs of those countries that you're exposed to, the better versed you're going to be in the business arena, whether that's education or whether it's, finance, manufacturing, whatever.
Okay, and did you take a foreign language in high school?
I did, 4 years of French.
Okay, do you remember anything from what do you remember from
I do. I can still read some French. A lot of the vocabulary comes back. I could probably conjugate basic verbs. I don't know about the irregular verbs. Some of them might come back. And then when I hear it spoken, I can, pick up on words and phrases.
Okay, if you had to go back to the class again now, do you think you would approach it differently?
I would probably take a different language, knowing now the direction, that world business has gone. If Mandarin Chinese had been offered, which is quite a difficult language to learn, that might be beneficial. Japanese might be beneficial given the direction that, manufacturing is going.
Yeah.
Spanish, because of the region of the United States we live in, is advantageous, but that's not necessarily true in all parts of the country.
Well, it would be especially advantageous in southwestern.
In southwestern
Like what the
United States,
Makita is.
absolutely.
All right.
Any of the border, states.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.